Listen, you want to speak? You're watching Guns N' Roses.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. It's a time of the week where I look back at some of the videos that I released this past week and talk about some of the comments I received from you guys as well. Now, before we get started, I want to let you guys know that I've started to create content for my second YouTube channel, which is known as Rock and Roll True Stories. The link is down below. I really urge you guys to go subscribe because I'm going to be putting a lot of my effort on Rock and Roll True Stories. I think I'm kind of burnt out on Guns N' Roses at this point in time, and I've already shot so many True Story episodes that I don't really need to shoot anymore for the next little bit. So far I've only put out a couple Rock and Roll True Stories. I plan to do about 2 a week just based on my current workload and my schedule. And I plan on covering, every single rock band I can, all the way from like the 60s to now. So this week I put out 2 videos. One was about Pearl Jam and the boy who inspired the song Jeremy. And the second one, which was probably more popular, was how a cover song led to the demise of Van Halen. So of course I'm referring to the David Lee Roth era of Van Halen. And then this coming week, I haven't decided exactly which videos I'm going to put up because I've shot about 5 or 6 so far. But I think I was going to do one about the Kiss Army and how the Kiss Army got started by a couple of teenagers, which is a really cool story. And then I was probably going to do one about Scott Weiland, and I've done a couple Stone Temple Pilots ones. I was going to put out either the one about why he got fired from Stone Temple Pilots or why the band was so hated by critics but yet so successful. So I've got some really great ideas that I'm just really getting a lot of my creative energy out on Rock and Roll True Stories, so I really urge you guys to go subscribe. Right now in the middle of doing all my artwork for the channel, and I've already changed the name of it to Rock and Roll True Stories so you guys won't be confused by GNR Central 1 and GNR Central 2. But without further ado, guys, let's talk about this week's videos and comments. So this Monday's video was a news video. The main headline in it was how Duff and Slash basically talked about losing their virginity, and I got some negative comments from you guys, and to be honest, if it's in the news, guys, I'm going to cover it. That's what Guns N' Roses Central is. It's not one of these many phony Guns N' Roses channels that only cover press releases from the bands, and I'm not going to name any certain channels, but and if you guys have a problem with that, go start your own Guns N' Roses channel by all means. I've heard some people said they're going to start their own, and trust me, it's a lot more work than you guys think it is. The other video that I put up this week was about the Guns N' Roses fan club. So there was a cool guy on the My GNR forums who posted a photo of some of the fan club stuff he got from 1996. It was just before Slash left the band. And a lot of people hadn't seen the stuff before, but I did read that some of you guys actually weren't members of the fan club. And if you guys, there was actually a hotline you could call and hear like pre-recorded messages from the band members. And some people said that they sent in stuff to the fan club back in the 90s. They never got shit in return. Like, their money would disappear and they never get anything in the mail, which was really shitty. And it's kind of alluded to in that video because Guns N' Roses put out a message saying, oh, we're not happy with the company that was managing it before, but now we're taking control over it. And maybe it was a different company. We also had a question from Jason Knight who asked me, dude, if it's too much of a personal question, then please ignore it. But are you earning enough money on YouTube to quit your job? Are you doing YouTube full time? If so, good for you, man. So thanks for the comment. To be honest, man, YouTube does not pay shit. It's almost like what the streaming services pay the artists. There's no way in hell I could ever quit my job and go YouTube full-time. And I don't even think I would do that. I think it's kind of nice to have a balance between a full-time job, which is, much more stable than YouTube, and that. And if you guys want to support my channel, you guys can go to Patreon. And if you want to see me continue to make videos, you can go support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month and get a bunch of cool behind-the-scenes stuff. Like what you guys get to see True Story episodes ahead of everyone else. Plus, you'll get to know what's coming up on my channel before everyone else does, as well as you get to see major interviews before everyone else does too. So another comment we had is from Mike. He said, I still have all of these newsletters from back in the day. Robert John was also selling 8x10 photos for $10 each. There were 50 photos altogether, and my plan was to buy all 50 in segments of 10 each. So I bought my first group of photos, and they were amazing. If you bought 10, you would get an autographed photo. I got Gilby's that time around, so I saved up enough money to buy 10 or more, but sadly the check was cashed, and I never received anything. It was a real bummer. I'm sure I wasn't the only one that got ripped off. At that time, I was working at a supermarket, so $100 wasted on photos never came with some double talk and jive to me. Thanks for reading, everyone. So I think Mike, that was a cool story. Sorry to hear you didn't get your stuff in the mail. It kind of sucks when, fan clubs are like that. I feel like now with the internet, there's a little bit more accountability. But from what I've heard about the Night Train membership and the Night Train fan club, it's not very well run and it takes people a long time to get their stuff. Real John said, I remember joining that version of the club. I had all that stuff. Late 96, early 97, they even sent me a cassette sampler of the Neurotic Outsiders album, which is pretty cool. I mean, the Neurotic Outsiders album is a pretty great album, and it's kind of one of the more underrated albums from the GNR members. Carlos said, the letter that Axl wrote back then, he was basically angry. I remember watching This Week in Rock. So he's alluding to the letter that, or the facts that Axl sent to MTV once Slash left the band. He said, I remember watching This Week in Rock. The headline said Axl leaves Slash out of Guns N' Roses at the beginning of the week, back in 1996. Let's see some of the other comments. MT said, the instructions to join the fan club were on the sleeve of GNR Lies. Can Axl help you? Seth said, GNR Central. I remember that you could call a number to get a message from somebody in the band, and yes, it was a pre-recorded message. So another comment I got was from Marianne. She alluded to something in the video. So you used to be able to have like a pen pal who is a Guns N' Roses fan you could like write back and forth to around the world. So she said, yeah, I had a pen pal. I only received one letter though, which it was fun. It would have been better to be an exchange student. Thanks, Sid. Cool comments about history of change in regards to following a band's music. So next up was our much anticipated podcast that we did with Dave Dominguez, who used to be an engineer on Chinese Democracy. So he worked on the album for about 7 months, and he revealed a lot of stuff we hadn't heard before about the album. And there was a really overwhelmingly positive response. I even sent it to Dave, and their managers were happy. His managers were happy with it. So let's talk about some of the comments you guys had. So Jeff said, I would kill to hear the Appetite re-recording with Freese, Fink, Paul, Dizzy, Chris, and Tommy. The Sweet Child of Mine version from Big Daddy, at least from the 2-minute and 2-second mark till the end of the track, is amazing. Axl sounds great, and he nails that Sweet Child of Mine line at the end almost as good as Appetite. He said Paul Tobias gets a bad rap from fans, but he co-wrote some of the best songs on CD, referring to Chinese Democracy. I think it was a bad time all around for Guns. Matt, to me, is a great drummer, probably their best drummer GNR's had next to Josh and Frank. But as soon as Slash left, he was basically looking for a reason to quit or get fired. That's my opinion. It's great hearing the stories about the mid-90s and what Guns was going through. Thanks, guys. He also said, keep up the great work. Next video you guys should be about is the unreleased tracks like Checkmate, The General, Oklahoma, Silkworms, and so forth. So thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. I do want to do a video about the unreleased tracks. I just haven't got around to doing it. But thank you again. Miss Metal said, great stories here. I enjoyed this interview and took a lot from it. I often wonder if Axl regrets not having a family of his own. He seems to like kids, and I would imagine his lifestyle would make it impossible for it in some ways, and maybe who knows? And maybe he knows that. Great job, guys. So thanks, Miss Metal. I agree. I think Axl probably wanted kids at the end of the day, but I feel like a lot of celebrities who do have kids are pretty good at keeping their kids out of the limelight or out of the spotlight, especially the people who live in New York City compared to LA. Now, one of the things he revealed is that Axl asked him to erase the end of This I Love, which was a different song than the one that ended up in Chinese Democracy, and he basically said, I love you, Stephanie. And that's basically what he said. Some people were asking, wow, like they were kind of blown away by that. Richard said, and you guys are crushing it with the interviews. They've all been great. Dave seems like an awesome guy. Hoping to hear some Buckethead stories. Still got about 20 minutes left on this. Yeah, unfortunately, there was no Buckethead stories because he wasn't around when Buckethead joined the band in late 99. But we did interview Sean Bevan, and I don't remember if we talked about Buckethead with him. I'm pretty sure we must have. Ryan said, Obsession Confession from Curdled was a legit hit on jazz radio. The flamenco-style instrumental is like the very end of Double Talking Jive. So Slash also worked with Dave Dominguez on the Curdled soundtrack, which was just before he quit Guns N' Roses. Paul of Vendite said, This I Love You, Stephanie. Incredible stuff, guys. Thanks a lot. Maximum support. Some of you guys like the Axl pizza story. So Dave told a story about how his kids were in the studio with him for a session and Axl showed up. Dave used to do a lot of sessions with other bands, you know, just to make some extra money on the weekends. And Axl dropped by one day and his kids were with him. Dave's kids were with him and they were hungry. And Dave kind of got back into working and forgot about his kids. And then Axl ended up buying them pizza. So Axl seemed really good with his kids. And he had nothing bad to say about Axl. He said he was a great guy. He was great with kids. And he really treated him really well when he was working on the album. Now, one of the best comments I had was from the Spirit World. He said, crazy amounts of money to jam out songs, ideas in a recording studio instead of working in a rehearsal space and only going to a recording studio when all the songs are ready. I agree. I never understood why Guns N' Roses for Chinese Democracy, or at least from 94 to like 2000, would use a studio to do rehearsals and come up with song ideas. I don't understand why they just didn't use a rehearsal space. So let's go on to our next video. So the next news video was about Joe Rogan. He was on his podcast this week and he talked about Axl Rose a bit and how he'd love to interview him. And some of you guys said to me, okay, so the minute I heard Joe Rogan talk about Axel, I knew you were going to do a video on it because I've talked about I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I'm not like a massive fan, but I do listen to his podcast, like the bits that are on YouTube here and there. You guys were kind of split. Kyle said Axel on Rogan's podcast would be awesome. I don't know if Axel would do it, though. Touchdown said H didn't treat Axel that well. However, I believe now he is medicated to combat his bipolar issues, hence his bloated face appearance from these drugs. Another person said, yep, I think that's the same. People generally tended to agree. It's kind of amazing, when you look at the 1998 photos of Axel where he's a bit heavier, people are saying that he's on antidepressants and stuff. I was kind of surprised that some of those drugs do that, like make people gain weight to that point, but you'll never really know the truth unless Axel comes out and says it. I think, honestly, Axel's probably found peace, and maybe he's doing stuff that's not drug-related. Maybe he's doing meditation. Maybe he's doing yoga that's, giving him some sort of peace in his life. And at the end of the day, it's great that, he's able to go out and act professional unlike he used to back in the early 90s and 80s. So George said, I knew you'd do a video on this. Check out Mike Tyson on the podcast today. I still have to listen to Mike Tyson on Joe Rogan's podcast. Alphys said Rogan is a sellout. It's kind of funny. People are kind of split on Joe Rogan. Like, his fans are very devout, but there's also some people who don't really like him. Basically said, Karen said, Joe Rogan and Axel not in this lifetime, laugh out loud. Yeah, I don't think Axel's going to do Joe Rogan's show in any time in the near future. Some of you guys, actually a lot of you guys don't like the Dizzy Reed opening, so I've started to use the Richard Fortis opening a little bit more. So Touchdown said, thankfully you got rid of that Dizzy opening. 1976, Chorzow says, Axel is a clean dude around, worked out all the time. Slash left in 96. Axel had a new band in 2001. He's been touring since then. Yes, Duff and Slash set them back to the top. A lot of people said, why ask Joe Rogan for when you can ask Mark Maron to do it? Yeah, I would honestly rather have Howard Stern interview Axel out of all those guys. I think Howard is by far a much better interviewer than Joe Rogan is. So people were generally in agreement they'd love to see Joe Rogan interview Axel. Hey, I'll take any Axel interview I can get at this point in time. So this video by far, I think even above the Dave Dominguez video, got the most positive response from people. Because I hadn't really done a video about Buckethead. And you guys said, oh, we love the story. This is one of the best ones you guys have done. And you guys were kind of split on what you thought about Buckethead. So Bones said, dude was a nut job. And I kind of agree that he's kind of an interesting character. I think you could do a whole channel just on Buckethead. Seth said, GNR Central, this is why your podcast is number one. From the time you started until the end, it was filled with nothing but great information. So I really appreciate that. Marlon said, Buckethead is one of the best guitarists of all time, and the stuff he came up with Chinese is sensational. Bucket is extremely introverted and shy. I think with a bit more support, he would have stayed in the band. Jennifer said, Buckethead is amazing. Not only is he good at playing guitar and writing music, but as a person, he has a beautiful heart and soul. He cares about what really matters in life. Buckethead equals love. Encouragement and Hope Ministries said, would have been epic had they released a trilogy of albums with him on it in 2002. Just a missed opportunity because they would have had it would have been huge had Buckethead stayed in the band. I kind of wonder how much more unreleased stuff there is with Buckethead playing guitar on it. I would love to hear that. I do think that his solo on There Was a Time is like mind-blowingly good and one of the best Guns N' Roses solos of all time. Channel 01 says, I honestly wish Buckethead never left GNR and was still in the lineup, and that was upvoted by a lot of people. Oftentimes you see Slash is better, but there was like one guy who said that. Tavin and Twins Fitzgerald said, wow, this dude is crazy, laugh out loud. The Spirit World said, Chicken Coops in the studio, that's not insane at all. Info said, this is by far the best GNR channel ever. Thanks a lot. So I really appreciate those nice comments. Yeah, it was mostly people are positive about Buckethead. There was a few people who said Buckethead's great, but I just didn't like him in GNR. So thanks for all the positive comments, guys. I've done a couple more videos on Buckethead, but I just haven't released them yet. But it gives me a good indication of what you guys want to see on my channel in the future. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And we'll be back this week with a couple more True Story episodes and a bunch of more news videos, guys. Thanks for watching. And go check out my other channel, Rock and Roll True Stories, if you just love rock and roll. And I really want you guys to let me know which bands you want to see profiled on that channel. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.